Hi, if you want to watch exclusive content with hot girls that you won't watch on YouTube, namely where Naruto roasts Kushina and Mikoto and many other hot girls without restrictions, then visit my Boosty channel at the link in the description.
Preface: please read before reading further. An alternative version of the development of events, which is done to please the commentators, because I do not claim to have a complete and final interpretation and even often make a couple of endings myself. If you want to read not only the best possible scenario for the person thinking about it, then it is better to read this at the end for familiarization. The preface is finished. A pair of eyes and two more triplets stared at the creature in green armor that came out of the portal. "Mom, who is this?" "This is..." The woman was cut off from finishing her sentence by a shot that hit her right in the third eye. "Headshot," the executioner commented to himself, quickly changing his position and taking out a ballista after his rifle, after which he shot at the guy with two eyes. He was clearly moving well, but his delay from surprise at the sight of the headless mother was too long. The second shot killed another enemy and now the third was in sight, as the soldier felt a powerful surge of energy that simply blew him and the entire village away in an instant. When everything calmed down, Doomguy realized that he was buried alive under a pile of earth and other debris that lay on top. But his strength was enough to start getting out, and after a couple of minutes he crawled out from under the rubble and looked around, analyzing the situation. The effect resembles the consequences of using a nuclear weapon, but I don't detect radiation. The remnants of Argent energy indicate that it was her. Vega commented on the view of the wasteland, on the outskirts of which the executioner found himself. "I'm detecting activity near the tree. It looks like the third one is heading towards it and something. GRA." In the distance, where Doomslayer was looking, the tree screamed and began to transform. Hundreds and thousands of figures separated from it, running towards him, and he only smiled under his helmet and turned up the music. In this fight with the little things, everything was too easy, as if you were beating imps, but the tree itself turned out to be an extremely large and agile opponent for its size, but not enough. When it decided to cover everything with an explosion, a BFG charge launched in time blew it up. However, the last demon turned out to be a big asshole and managed to survive, and then absorbed the giant's recovering carcass. "I don't know who you are, but I won't forgive you for this." Hagoromo was so angry for the first time in his life that he truly awakened the power of his eyes, which fed on his hatred and pain, just as his ancestors, the demons, once fed on others, but here he found nourishment in his own suffering. He was fair and calm in himself, as well as peace-loving and valued other people's lives, and therefore even went against his mother, since she did not value other people's lives, but although he and his brother were good people, just as their mother had better motives deep down, but it seems that an evil fate awaited them in any case. The warrior who fought the legions of hell had never met such a powerful creature as this time. Previously, all the power of hell was divided into its creatures, but here it was gathered into one creature, and completely intelligent and experienced enough to use its powers. In the worlds he had visited, he had not yet encountered a world where there were enemies stronger than the armies of hell, until now. Hagoromo, although he did not have such power before that day, learned how to use it very quickly. First of all, he hid behind a shield of truth-seeking balls, which absorbed all the projectiles launched at him, even the green clot that penetrated his previous armor, Susanoo. Experience showed that the enemy does not have any difficulty in fighting an opponent of a larger size. In fact, it seems the opposite. However, Rikudo himself could not reach the enemy, because simple elemental attacks could not penetrate his armor, and he himself was extremely fast and durable. He could even maneuver in the air, and therefore it was clear to both that they would have to decide everything in close combat. Where Hagoromo was faster than his projectiles. Vroom. The executioner's first attack with his chainsaw ended with it splitting on the black matter, which was impossible to penetrate, and without replenishing supplies from the enemies, his arsenal was out of ammunition, and so he began to retreat, and the enemy froze above him at an unreachable height for his jumps. "It seems that you can no longer attack me, you have no weapons left. You dodge my attacks, but you can't do anything against my balls, and therefore I will not use them to throw at you." Before Doomguy's eyes, the enemy was covered in blackness from head to toe and armed himself with it. Hagoromo was very fast and like a rocket flew with a spear at the enemy, the killer of his brother, wanting to quickly end the life of the killer, but he dodged and took out a weapon that had not been shown until now. Smack! The halves of the god, which were sawn lengthwise from head to toe, fell to the ground and his blood and chakra flew to Doomslayer, replenishing his arsenal of cartridges and restoring his armor. Congratulations, this world no longer detects demonic argent energy, but it's still worth leaving a beacon here to track its surges. Opening a portal. Explanations. Yes, I dumped the character because I created conditions under which he could lose. With all due respect, but I'm not sure that he would have been able to defeat everyone in the Naruto world even with all his weapons and armor. If you take his peak, he's an S-rank or Kage level shinobi. If you take some shinobi from the Naruto world, they could go to hell and commit genocide there themselves, perhaps even more successfully than the executioner. Throw him against Madara at the peak of his power with his invisible clones and all that, Minato with his movement and other top shinobi. I'm not sure that the executioner would have won. It's one thing to have a crowd of demon meat, which can't be said to be stronger than genin, the same types and most zombies and the like, and the strongest demons can be equated to jonin, but the Kage should definitely knock them down in droves. The only difference is that the executioner is a machine that does not get tired and replenishes ammo at the expense of the fallen. Also, the executioner was once defeated and sealed, and then Hayden caught him again and locked him in a portal, took the forge and sent him somewhere, so the executioner is not invulnerable and not omnipotent. I also created such a situation so that he had a reason to stay in the world more and adapt at least a little. Plus, in a one-on-one battle, your arsenal and ammo can run out if you don't have someone to refill it with. He was once captured by the demons themselves, and in the game, Hayden swaddled him so that he couldn't do anything to him, took away the furnace, and threw him into the portal. I didn't write that he was in worlds where the monsters were stronger than his previous opponents. And there, too, he might not have developed if he coped anyway. He is like Hayden in essence, strong, resilient and tenacious, but not ultimatum. I don't see any reason why the Naruto world is a kindergarten. The same icon of sin probably can't compare to a completed Susanoo, you can just cut all the titans one by one like cakes. And the power of any Biju is more than a nuclear bomb, a whole arsenal. The power of Rikudo's truth-seeking balls probably annihilates even BFG. Naruto with clones of Rasengan can kick Biju, and Cyber Demon and others even more so. He could probably even kill Icon in solo without Biju mode. The executioner also doesn't know how to Doton, which means he won't be able to pursue a shinobi normally, nor underwater. The maximum he can do is knock down an enemy on land and in water. Deidara can send his clay monsters from underground and crawl away to a safe place. Obito simply cannot be killed, probably even with a furnace, because he is simply in another dimension. =========================================================================================================================Comment to 1. Another alien. If you consider this a drain and humiliation of the executioner, then I apologize, but here he has opponents of legendary level and there are many of them. And it has already happened that the executioner was outplayed, not even once. First, the demons restrained him in eternal stasis, then Hayden twisted and robbed him for the furnace. Here is the top of the shinobi world, if not them, then no one. The smartest ones can guess the author's intentions and write theories in the comments. When the heavens fell and the creators were devoured by hell. When the icon of sin fell and the world of men was given a chance. Then the world of hell was dealt the most terrible blow. Without the nourishment of the souls of mortal people. Without the help of Ken the Creator. No one could stop the executioner's new harvest. Humanity has suffered incredible wounds. But people were able to fight back with his help. Then the flow of countless hordes began to subside. The harvest lasted so long that the world of the world eaters themselves fell. But the creatures and their owners did not accept this. Instead of all the hordes attacking one world at a time, the lords of the underworld sent their children to many worlds. There their offspring were supposed to survive and grow like a plague. However, the Scorched One cannot stop. For as long as he lives, he will seek out demons and thirst to destroy them. Every single one of them, no matter where they hide, no matter who they pretend to be. After the exhaustion of the original hell and the worlds inhabited by it, his path continued into other worlds for his remains. During his search for the sprouts of evil, the executioner has already visited many worlds. In each of them, the demons took on a different appearance, behaved differently, sometimes even losing their essence. Somewhere they did not take root and became something else, or the world coped on its own. Somewhere there was an eternal war with the dark forces, which only chose a dark lord for themselves, the murder of which did not solve anything, since it was only a sprout, and no one touched the roots of hell, but the doomed soldier uprooted everything to the very end. And here is another world, it comes out of the portal. Scanning through your suit shows that there is a small amount of argent energy in this world, but it does not have the color of hell, but it is not the color of heaven either, it is neutral. It seems that the seed of destruction has not yet sprouted here. The approximate direction to the source is being established. The executioner remained silent at Vega's words, as he always did. He rarely spoke at all, since most of the time he only wanted to kill demons, not to hold a conversation. The portal was opened at the coordinates of the echoes of argent energy, and therefore, due to errors, we were unable to transfer you close to the source. You will have to go yourself. The energy for the transfer is enough to pull you out, but not to open an exact portal inside this world. Dr. Hayden was pragmatic and did not need his interlocutor to answer him. It was enough for him that his comrade was doing the job that had to be done. For argent energy was a blessing, but the price in the form of the possibility of hell breaking loose here was high. If the world they visited was lucky, then after leaving it would master the remains of the demons and even be able to continue to study and use them, but if not, then they would have to look for other ways to deal with the energy crisis and lack of energy. Judging by the appearance of the buildings and local residents, this is a world of undeveloped technologies, and there are no users of argent energy in sight. Yes, Vega, it looks like ancient Asia. And that tree, which is already visible from here, is clearly unusual, especially since the argent energy signal is coming from the same direction. It is unlikely to be a coincidence. The warrior approached a village that was empty of people. It was clearly built using ancient technologies using wood, when reinforced concrete and other materials were not yet used. You are approaching other sources of argent energy, we can detect them now. The tree blocked their detection. It seems that among them, one is the most powerful and two are weaker. This strong source is possibly even more powerful than the one coming from the tree. According to my estimates, this tree has more energy than even the icon of sin. If such power has gathered in a creature of a smaller size, then I am afraid to even imagine what kind of power it possesses, because even you may have problems. The warrior remained silent and only sped up, trying to get to the creatures as quickly as possible. Soon he came across a mansion or temple, which by local standards was probably the pinnacle of local architecture. In front of the building stood two guys with pale skin and small horns. In front of them on the steps stood a woman with the same horns and pale skin, as well as long white hair, but the strangest thing about her were her white eyes, around which veins bulged. The strangest thing about her was that she had an eye in the middle of her forehead. All three were tense and seemed frozen before a battle. All three turned to the intruder as soon as he appeared in their field of vision. The guys had different eyes, one was white like his mother, the other vaguely resembled her third eye. They all emit powerful argent energy, they are the descendants of demons, but it seems that this energy has already adapted and does not have the same properties as ordinary demons. Perhaps half-breeds or descendants of demons. Besides this woman, it seems that this eye, under the influence of emotions, awakens the property of demonic energy. With each second the amount of demonic in it grows. On the other hand, for the mother and her children, everything was heading towards a battle to determine which way this world would go. Either it would freeze in submission and fear of the goddess, who would make sacrifices to the tree and to herself, or it would live and develop along the path of wars and conflicts between mortals, who would kill their own kind. And at that moment, when all three were ready to rush into battle, they felt it. It was an energy that brought to them the image of something terrible and deadly, a force that made their long-dormant demonic instincts scream in terror and want to run away. And then the culprit of their unrest appeared. It was a warrior in strange armor, with a strange, probably weapon. Mother, is this the one you were talking about? No, it's not him, I was talking about those like us, this one. I seem to remember the legends about him, the horror that destroyed our home world and devastated it. Because of whom we had to flee. Gra! A powerful roar broke the silence and tension. It was Kaguya who awakened her protector, who had given her the fruit of chakra and had become linked to her from that moment on. In an instant, the tree transformed and took the shape of a monster with 10 tails. Bang! Bang! Whoosh! The warrior fired a shotgun at the demon brothers, but they dodged and jumped back, not daring to intervene in order to let the mother and the unknown man fight, and then they would fight the winner, and the warrior, after firing, then latched onto the woman with a chain and pulled himself towards her. Crash! Bang! Kaguya received a powerful blow to the face and flew straight into the house, breaking through the wall. She quickly came to her senses, but the enemy was already distracted by Shinju, who was quickly approaching and began to shower the warrior and the entire village with wooden stakes. Her sons also came under attack, but all three were able to dodge the projectiles. Hamura and Hagoromo decided to deal with Mother, and the executioner decided to deal with the giant. More white people began to separate from the giant, or rather these creatures only looked like them, but in reality they were like dough that burst from Doomguy's blows. It is obvious that here the source of power was not the torment of mortal souls, but the souls themselves entirely, which is why the energy of the Argent has no color of suffering and pain. These bodies are just a shell, from which the soul was drunk. Dr. Hayden could calmly analyze the situation while his friend tore apart the bodies of weak creatures. They do not even have blood, the body is like dough from Argent energy, but the suit can process this for work, although it is not as suitable for it as the hellish one. Bam! A powerful blow fell on the place where the executioner and the creatures were, but unlike the latter, he managed to get away and finally began shooting at the monster, but the creature regenerated well and the wounds healed quickly. Incredible regeneration, I've never seen anything like it before. Apparently, the damage is neutralized due to the fact that the creature's flesh can heal like plasticine. Small caliber won't help here. Sir, I am detecting a flash of a powerful Argent projectile, comparable in power to a BFG 10K. Something resembling a black ball really did start to form in the creature's mouth, because Shinju didn't care about anything and the main task was to destroy the enemy. However, the warrior didn't wait for preparations. Whoosh! Boom! A powerful explosion illuminated everything with a flash, and then a wave of air came. The monster was blown up under its own Baijidama and began to fall backwards. Meanwhile, the battle between the mother and her children was going on. And gradually the woman began to lose, but the explosion changed everything and all attention went to the monster. Impossible! Kaguya rushed towards her protector and saw how a blade with a red blade made of chakra was pierced into his eye. From this weapon came a terrible chakra that suppressed the chakra of such a giant, and he finally froze and stopped recovering from the damage. When the executioner detached the blade from his crucible, the bone blades of the woman rushed into it, who was eager to quickly end everything while Shinju was not yet completely paralyzed, which meant quickly freeing him so that he would help her, otherwise she would definitely lose. Stop, let them fight further, I have a plan. One of the brothers held the other back. What should we do, Hagoromo? I will absorb Shinju's chakra, and with it we will defeat them, and then we will start sealing the body, but now this blade prevents us from doing this. It is as if it sealed the chakra and the body of the ten-tailed. I'll pull it out. Hamura, who had grabbed the blade with his hands, immediately recoiled from the pain. His hands were severely burned. How can I pull it out? I can't touch it. I'll try to pull out this flesh he stuck in, and then we'll begin. Meanwhile, the executioner had badly battered Kaguya, who began to keep her distance from him, because he had already managed to almost cut off her hand with a chainsaw nearby. She was saved only by the fact that her hair was eventually able to jam it, although after that they were in a great hurry, but the warrior also had a blade, as well as powerful blows with fists and feet. Sir, Colossus activity has been detected. It seems to have been somehow freed from the forge blade, probably by those two demons. I am detecting an unknown ritual, due to which the Colossus energy flows into another source, strengthening it. Recommendation: interrupt this process in order to avoid strengthening the enemy. With a roar, Slayer had to stop his fight and rush after the enemies he had left behind. However, he did not have time and fell into a trap. The brothers rushed straight at him. They both managed to defend themselves from his volleys, and in this battle they tried to surround him in order to attack from different sides. Doomguy decided to use the BFG on the one with 3 eyes and was the most dangerous, but then the mother joined in, deciding that this opponent would be the most dangerous. The powerful plasma discharge was stopped, though, even though it almost broke through the sage's sphere defense. When Hagoromo was able to turn his gaze to the battlefield, he saw that his brother and mother were also alive, although they had suffered from the strange lightning that accompanied that clot. The executioner was already approaching him with a blade raised to cut off his head. The blade was blocked by the sage's staff and cut, but the enemy, although puzzled, still instantly changed tactics and instead of cutting, struck a blow that almost broke the Jinchuriki's neck. Hagoromo was saved by his brother, who attacked from behind, but in response received a shotgun blast at point-blank range. After which his arm was instantly broken at the elbow, and his head was almost pierced by the same bone. Demon suppression. Cleansing palm. At that moment, Hagoromo touched the executioner with his palm and immediately jumped back, avoiding the kick, but nevertheless, he did what he wanted. Green chakra formed between his palm and the executioner, which did not allow him to break the distance, and his rapprochement was hindered by Kagaya's hair, which entwined him, not allowing the Jinchuriki to attack or somehow break the connection. Vega! Pull him out! Samuel began to shout, for the situation was critical. Now wooden rods with hieroglyphs appeared around the executioner, which helped to hold him, for Kagaya's hair was almost all cut. No way, their attack is blocking the transfer. It looks like this energy suppresses the suit and the carrier. After these words, the connection was broken completely. For the executioner, it felt like his hatred and thirst for destruction were fading. He felt a drowsiness that he could not overcome. As soon as he fell asleep, Hamura and Hagoromo simultaneously attacked their mother, because even with such a wound, they could not allow her to remain free. After she began to be covered with earth and raised into the sky, they took the executioner's body and carried it away from this place. We won, brother. Yes, how are you, Hamura? I'll help you. Thank you. What are we going to do with him now? We will take his suit and weapons and hide them far away from them and the whole world. Our mother will be locked in the moon, and we will hide him deep in the earth, under the seals. We will leave him guards and a warning so that no one will wake him up again. Equals 2. Awakening equals. Commentary on 2. Awakening. There is little combat and it is described SOSO, I am even worse at this than at everything else. Smile of Doom Guy https://pbs.twinj.com/media/ejpzmpmwa-lmn.jpg. In a secret cave under the village, the doors of a secret passage quickly opened and several people entered. One of them walked forward with an angry look, the others silently walked behind, but one of the closest to their commander decided to break the silence and express their general thoughts. Are you sure this should be done, sir? Our clan has kept it for centuries, do you really want to? What would the village chief say? Father is already dead. That old fool believed in the alliance with Konoha until the end, but where are they now? Only those who are now outside the island may survive, but they won't let us go. Too many villages sent their shinobi. But according to legend, the Sage of the Six Paths himself imprisoned him here, and our clan chose to guard him until the end of time and… I know. We bravely carried out our duty. And so, by studying the seals on his sarcophagus, we were able to advance in Fuinjutsu further than anyone else, and our clan was able to exalt itself so much that now almost everyone has turned against us. But I am not one of those who will accept death humbly. Since we will die anyway, then at the end we will show them all what kind of monster we guarded and protected. They will still try to open it, as well as our secrets, so they will find it one way or another and try to find out what is inside, because only we can read those inscriptions, because we translated them and know this lost dialect, and they will think that our secrets are stored there. Let's make their job easier. But sir, even a leader like you couldn't remove the seal. I have already learned the forbidden technique. Be but you. Since we're going to die anyway, it doesn't matter. For the first time, the voice of the red-haired man in his 30s sounded not angry or furious, but uncertain, because he knew what was waiting for him. Hide, maybe you'll be lucky, and he won't notice you. We must protect you, we will share your fate. The bravest one spoke out, but the others nodded, although they were scared too. No, this is an order. Hide. If there is a chance that the legacy of our village will survive with you, then you must take it. Come on. There is no telling how soon the enemies will break in here. After the shout, the people hurried to hide. The son of the head of the Uzumaki clan began preparing the technique and looked at the stone coffin, on which the signs of Fuinjutsu from Shinju flesh were applied along the entire perimeter, although only the creator of the seal, which Rikudo himself applied, knew about this. At the center of the convergence of all the symbols was a circle, and in it a sword blade with already unknown and untranslated due to the small amount of text of this language. The inscription and warning itself read, "Here lies a great enemy. That came from other realities. The one who is feared even in hell. And he came to bring destruction and death. He must be laid to rest until then. As long as this world exists." Death God Summoning Technique. Finally, after preparation, the technique began. Behind the man's back, an invisible figure of a horned ghost, with a blade in its mouth, appeared. But the user himself did not turn around and did not see that this time the god of death was not so imperturbable and arrogant. His face showed surprise and fear. However, he had been helping this clan for a long time, and Rikudo himself had passed this technique on to the red-haired clan and instructed them to help, and therefore he nevertheless submitted to the will of the summoner and put his hand on his back, and a copy of it came out of his stomach. This hand touched the circle of symbols, trying not to touch the blade, which could harm even a Shinigami. The symbols went in a wave and began to return to the one who once helped to cast them. Unlike Uzumaki, Rikudo could act without sacrificing his soul, but even he had to pay with his chakra in such quantity that he did not use this summoning often. The seal was made in such a way that the power of the enemy weapon served to restrain it. Here the last symbols came off the slab and the user's Doton technique broke the sarcophagus. The man was surprised before his death to see that inside was not some demon, but an ordinary person. As soon as the clan leader's body fell to the ground, the imprisoned man's eyes opened wide and he began to look around abruptly. There were no demons or enemies in sight, so he cursed foully. His body was bound by tree roots, but he managed to tear them and get out with an effort. On the floor of the hall where he was, there was a corpse of a man in primitive armor. Since he didn't want to walk around without any protection and with a bare bottom, and there was nothing else visible nearby, the warrior searched the body. He was used to looting, because the dead didn't care anymore, and the living needed any opportunity to fight. He got some kind of oriental-type protection with weapons in the form of small knives and iron stars. The clothes were too small for him and were bursting at the seams, but at least it was something. This time, it seemed, they hadn't left his own suit nearby. Unfortunately, the body he found didn't have a helmet. Not finding anything else of interest except for the blade of a forge, which even he wouldn't touch with his bare hands, and therefore couldn't take with him, he went to look for a way out. He went out into the tunnel, where it was dark, but he did not go back for the torch that was in that room, for his eyes could see well even in the dark. Behind him there was a collapsed tunnel, behind which the remains of Uzumaki were hidden, but he did not know that, for as long as there was no demonic argent from them, and as long as they did not stand in his way, then he did not care. Search everything here, look for a secret entrance, the sensors have detected chakra underground. Those who own a Doton, try to detect the tunnels. The commander of the shinobi squad gave orders after the main temple of the settlement was cleared. The Third Shinobi World War was underway. While Konoha was fighting back, and the situation there was under control, because their hero, Yellow Lightning, had changed the course of the war, things were not going so smoothly for its allies. 3 great villages, Suna, Kiri, and Kumo, united and sent a total of 3,000 shinobi against Uzushio. The total number of shinobi in this small village did not exceed 1,000, not counting the common population, and therefore victory was predetermined for the attackers, because the village did not have such a strong shinobi, capable of single-handedly destroying entire armies of shinobi, putting them to flight, and the strongest carriers of Uzumaki blood of fighting age were in the same Konoha, namely Mito, as well as young Kushina. I have detected a terrifying chakra. Jinchuriki? The order was interrupted by the censor, who suddenly became horrified, and his words spread fear to others. What? They didn't send Jinchuriki with us, they are needed at the front. Have they betrayed us? Have they decided to stab us in the back? No, it's not the chakra coming from outside, but from below? They can't have a Jinchuriki. They're all divided between the great. The source of the chakra is rapidly approaching. Everyone present was horrified by the censor's statement, because among the allocated forces there was no one who could resist the Jinchuriki, namely, a Kage level or S-rank shinobi. Notify our allies. The rest of you, get ready, we'll meet him and try to neutralize him right away. The commander sent the genin away with the message, and began to prepare a trap. Bam! A powerful blow blew out the floor and the pedestal that covered the secret passage. Then a man with a stern face, a large jaw, and an oversized Uzumaki shinobi uniform emerged, not counting the forehead protector that the real owner had. To an unprepared person, the temple would have seemed empty, because at first glance it was empty. All the shinobi hid and froze, waiting for the signal. However, the executioner had a huge amount of experience and guessed that he was surrounded and was about to be attacked, but he did not sense the demons. As soon as he had fully exited the tunnel, a throwing iron flew at his back, which he dodged. After that, the technicians also flew at him. All the attackers were sure that someone from the Maelstrom village was in front of them, because otherwise there was no point in wearing this uniform, even if the enemy did not have a Maelstrom protector. Actually, the awakened one was not in the mood for talking, and therefore, as soon as he could find a gap in the technicians, he rushed into close combat and grabbed the unlucky genin and lightly slammed him against the wall. After that, grabbing the unconscious body by the neck, he used it as a hostage and a living shield. If his fellow villagers stopped the attack, then the shinobi of other villages decided that the opportunity to kill such a dangerous opponent was worth the life of another shinobi. The executioner managed to escape after that, but the genin was turned into mincemeat. His comrades began to thirst for blood for both the killers and the enemy, but they were disciplined enough not to turn to battle with each other. Rip and tear. Although no one knew the foreign language, everyone felt a threat from these words. The unknown one, feeling all this yaki, smiled like a crazy maniac, and now everyone felt his thirst for murder, because he was not a pacifist, and if they wanted to kill him, then he was ready to respond to it. D-Demon. The attack continued, but even though there were genin, chunin, and even jonin among the shinobi, the attackers were covered in blood. Unlike the shinobi, Doomguy did not make seals, but used mostly very primitive, but nevertheless extremely effective and deadly taijutsu. He also easily used these local irons, although not so accurately, and when he managed to get to the swords, then to his flesh-tearing blows, an excellent style of kenjutsu was added. The attacker's fighting spirit lasted for half a day, when the executioner, bloodied from head to toe, with a helmet picked up from one of the opponents, had already killed more than 500 shinobi of various ranks. Considering that the attackers had also suffered losses during the assault on the island, the commanders decided to retreat, especially since the enemy shinobi did not attack first and did not pursue. We were not informed that Uzumaki had a shinobi of such rank. To eliminate him, we would need to request an S-rank shinobi, and they will not be sent here for the sake of one enemy. The three commanders-in-chief of this united army were discussing the problem that had arisen. The Suna shinobi started the conversation. Kiri was responsible for intelligence. I'm worried about why such a shinobi wasn't brought out earlier. I think he arrived after the attack from outside began, and Cloud is responsible for the cordon. He doesn't act like a shinobi at all, and even his clothes probably weren't meant for him, he's some kind of mercenary. The Kirinin turned the arrow to the Kumonin. Such a warrior cannot be anything other than a shinobi or a missing nin. And he doesn't look like a samurai at all. He can't be a mercenary either, I've never seen anyone who fought and led a battle like that. Also, judging by his background, his chakra couldn't have been missed, he doesn't know how to hide his chakra at all. It's possible that he was sealed somewhere under the temple from the very beginning. The damn Uzumaki hit him and released him on us as a last attack. This warrior could probably have been sealed a long time ago, because everyone has already forgotten about him. He doesn't even speak our language and doesn't use seals, and it seems he can't even walk on vertical surfaces or water. My people reported that he climbs deftly, but doesn't walk on such surfaces, and when they retreated into the ocean, he stopped attacking them and went deeper into the island. Then we need to check what is under the temple. Kiranin took the floor. My squads have already checked it. When he moved away from the village, we questioned the survivors. After we checked everything, but found only a collapsed tunnel, near the room with the ancient sarcophagus. Nearby was apparently the son of the head of the village. He was not wearing clothes, so probably that is what he wears. Judging by everything, the death was not violent, at least the body was not damaged externally. Apparently, this sealed shinobi was awakened, at the cost of the technique that kills the user. Near the sarcophagus, we found a strange chakra seal, which apparently was the lock. The Kumanin reported what he managed to find out. That's interesting, but what should we do? Tsunade asked a question on the original topic. We don't need to make any more assassination attempts. He won't stop us from finishing off the rest of Uzumaki. From now on, let him stay here. The Kumanin proposed his plan. And if he heads towards the landing towards the ships? Then we need to give the command to be ready for his approach. It is better to take them away from there at a distance. Even if he swims towards them, they will swim away, and in the water he will not be so agile, we will have a chance to drown him. Kiranin spoke out. And we're just going to let him go? This is a disgrace to all our villages. We must kill him while we have the chance. Tsunade was determined to see the matter through to the end. Wait. And what do you suggest? He wins direct fights due to his great strength and speed. In close combat, only fighters with lightning chakra can resist him, but only Jonin, but even they cannot withstand his onslaught for long. Even if there are several of them, and he cannot block blades with lightning chakra, he retreats. Jonin can only hold him together, they lose one by one. There are no wounded left after him, he is like a reaper. I think this is a suitable name for the bingo book, Blood Reaper. The Kumanin also wanted revenge, but did not want to lose even more people. We can use attrition tactics. If we don't work well together, we'll send out groups of our subordinates in shifts. My shinobi will create a fog and make sure he can't rest. I remember our third Reikage died the same way. 10,000 shinobi spent 3 days exhausting him until he died. The Kumanin's voice was filled with malice. Your Kage is just a monster who could even fight the 8-tailed beast. I wonder how long this one can last. A week later, the shinobi's own strength began to dwindle, as their enemy did not need rest, sleep or food and seemed to have no chakra reserves. Was always full of strength, and they were still limited in the number of shinobi who could change and restore chakra. The first to break were the Kumo shinobi, who had to run from the enemy and suffer the most losses instead of hiding in the fog or sand curtain. During this time, the cleanup was completed, and then it was decided to leave the island, because it was not advisable to transfer so many forces for the sake of one person, especially during a war. A month had passed since the shinobi army left the island. During this time, the executioner had already examined the entire, rather large island, and also searched everything on the island. However, although he had found a map, he did not know where he was or where to sail. His boat was almost ready, but he did not want to sail to an unknown place. But he delayed sailing, because for a week he had felt that he was not alone on the island, someone was watching him, but kept a distance, but today he was cautiously approaching. Hearing movement behind him, he turned around. Next come the stupid jokes. The executioner of doom opened his eyes and stood up from his shelter. In front of him stood those who freed him, no one died. The executioner was naked and for some reason looked very much like a young actor from a distant world, Schwarzenegger. He approached the one who was closest to his size and clothing. I want her Haori, katana, and horse, he said in a terrible accent. Then he came out of the tunnel and in front of him was a group of shinobi who were clearly asking for trouble. I came to kill demons, kick ass, and listen to metal, and I don't have a record player and there are no demons in sight, which means... Explanation: a doomslayer without armor and weapons is strong, but probably not stronger than a Kage or a bunch of Jonin. == 3. Fishing. == Comment to 3. Fishing. Symbol https://m0-tub-ru.yandex.net/I?ID $4F647BD8B9 of 248268694C28D258E and N = 13. I'm still bad at action and stuff. Almost no one had ever been on the deserted pier of the Uzumaki clan island since the destruction of the village, but today there were two people there. The first was an old man sitting on a pole. He was already old by Uzumaki standards, so old that he had even lost the red color of his hair and was completely gray, and next to him, a powerful man of about 30 years old in appearance, but in fact, much older, was working on a raft. A year and a half has already passed. The old man did not speak his native language, and therefore spoke slowly, since he himself had not yet learned it all and needed time to translate the words. You have learned a lot during this time, but you still have a lot to learn to achieve your goals. His interlocutor was silent as always, for he did not like to talk, and therefore, the old man often spoke more to himself. He felt uneasy at heart from the almost complete loneliness, especially in the place where his homeland, friends, and comrades had once been. He knew that, despite his menacing appearance, his interlocutor was listening to him attentively, and somewhere deep in his soul, if he had one, he himself was probably glad of his muttering, which brightened up the loneliness. You check your ship more and more often. Apparently you can't wait to finish your training and go fulfill your duty, your destiny. I'm done for today, we can continue training. The executioner answered rudely, but by his standards he was incredibly polite, because usually he was only ready to growl and scream, swear, and splash out all the rage that tormented him. But he would not have been able to live to this moment if he did not know how to communicate normally and control himself, and he still needed this old man. No, let's not do it today. You and I haven't been able to talk normally in all this time. First, I came to you and tried to communicate without knowing your language. Then you agreed to tolerate me only because you needed me, but now we have the opportunity to talk normally. You already know enough about me, even too much. You're right, but you know little about me and this world. And we don't know how long you'll live here. You didn't create all these devices for transition between worlds and your guns yourself. The larger one could have been damaged by now, so I need to look for my suit first. It's a chance to get to my tower, and then I'll go back for my equipment, and then I'll come here again. My armor can withstand that kind of time, and it's unlikely that anyone would break it, and if someone managed to put it on or activate it, then Hayden or Vega will deal with it and come up with something to send it back here, to me. Maybe, but where will you look for her? Maybe she's at the bottom of the sea, or somewhere else? I've never heard of anything like that, not even in legends. But let's leave that aside, you yourself don't know where to go and what to do. There are no imps or other creatures of yours in our world. But there are Bija here. I will destroy them. Yes, maybe you will be able to do it, but without your arsenal and everything else, you can be sealed again. You understand that you are not omnipotent, otherwise you would not have accepted my help. HRR. The warrior was angered to the point of roaring by the old man and his moralizing, but he was right. I don't even know your name, but you know mine. I don't care, old man, the name doesn't matter. Once I'm done here, I won't come back here again. Who knows? I already told you, your sailing skills are not enough to get to land normally. Our island and village are not called Uzushio for nothing. You can end up in a whirlpool, or get caught in a storm. And what are you suggesting? Take you with me? You'll fall apart in any serious mess, and even if the ship breaks down, I'll swim out sooner or later. Yes, I'm too old for battles, and in my best years I was a chunin, but now. But I will still be useful to you. You still don't know our written language well and speak worse than children, and your manners are like a monkey's. I'll manage somehow. I believe you, but even you, as you say, had to lose, either the temple collapsed on you, or you were locked in a force field, or Rikudo put you to sleep here. Don't growl, if you don't stop, you'll have to fight not demons, but people. All the great villages will turn against you, and you'll be neutralized, even with your strength. You need armor, weapons, and allies. I don't care about your villages and everything else. And they care about you. The old man tried to calm down, because this ram could be convinced, but it was difficult to argue with him. Arguments were needed here. I'll go with you anyway, I didn't spend so much time on you for nothing. From the very beginning of the war, I was on missions, and when I found out that my village was destroyed. Haha. Uzumaki was breathing heavily from excitement. I was ready to die of grief and even go and kill myself on anyone, but I also heard the news about you, the Blood Reaper. That's a stupid nickname. Doomslayer snorted slightly. Yes. Your Doomslayer suits you much better. I heard the legends about the prisoner of the main family, but I did not believe them, but if they are true, then this was my chance to take revenge through you, to direct your anger to my enemies, so I found you, observed and understood you, and then learned your language to understand you and figure out how to use you. And what did you come up with? I won't take revenge for your people, they are nothing to me. I know, but I just know something about Bijou. How to find a couple. You'll go after them, right? They're in the hands of my enemies. I see you're interested, then we'll finish your training and go together. A year later, one of the islands of the Land of Water. What did you find out? The executioner was very gloomy, because while he was sitting at a distance from the village where his companion had gone to scout out the matter, he had been questioning the peasants. It seems that the kami themselves. Forgive me, I forget that you not only dislike demons, but also don't trust the kami, like these creators of yours. So, it seems that fate itself is on your side. After that incident when you slaughtered a bunch of shinobi, as well as the not-so-great results of the war for Kiri, let's add Yugura's madness to this. In general, a civil war began. For us, this is ideal, because it would have started anyway, but you helped it happen earlier. Then it immediately became easier for us to get to him. Not only that, if we play it right, we'll even get allies, and more. This Yugura, he turned his village from hidden in the mist into the village of the bloody mist and is truly worthy of having a demon locked within him. Were you able to find out where their village is? No, I've never been there. They haven't held the Chunin exams in their village for a long time, and few people would want to visit them. Plus, even if we knew this, shinobi aren't the kind of people who would so easily accept a war on your terms. Yugura could simply run away and hide, and it would be difficult and time-consuming for you to look for him. That's why we're lucky that there's civil strife going on here. The rebels will help us find him and drive him into a trap, where you can finish him off. I'd like their entire village to share my fate, but I won't do that. And so I will have to be content with the fact that this bastard who accepted the alliance against Uzushio will pay, and his village will be greatly weakened. Have you figured out how we can find these rebels? Not yet. But I'll definitely think of something. Then for now, let's do everything according to my plan. And what is your plan? A week later, there was a battle between Yugura's forces and the rebels, but suddenly everyone felt a threat and a terrifying chakra. Is this Yugura? We need to retreat. The commander asked his censor. It's not him, it's something else. A large man in Uzushio's armor burst onto the battlefield. Who is here for Yakura? The unknown person who burst and shouted to the frozen warriors across the entire space. The entire battlefield froze, assessing the threat and what to respond to. A stupid plan. Uzumaki commented, who with his student was unable to find the rebels normally, and therefore they had to act according to the plan to look for a combat clash in order to actually show their strength and readiness to contribute to victory. Us? Some green genin who was closer to the executioner decided that this was their ally, but when he knocked him out with a kick to the head, it became obvious to everyone that there was someone here who had a big score to settle with the ruler of Kiri, but although Doomslayer tried not to kill his opponents, he still didn't really pay attention to whether they were safe. As a result, when it became clear that Yugura's supporters would be defeated and would retreat, the rebel forces also joined the battle, especially since they had time to regroup. Greetings, I am Ao, the right hand of Terumi Mei, the one who leads the most complete group of rebels. May I know who you are? A one-eyed man accompanied by a couple of bodyguards walked out to the hero of the battle, who met with the one who came out of hiding and began to talk to him about something. My friend doesn't speak our language well, I'm Uzumaki Lee. I'll speak for him and act as a translator. You can find him in the bingo book under the code name Bloody Reaper or Executioner. These names caused recognition to flash in Ao's mind, and some of the shinobi nearby became wary, while those who had lost friends because of him became angry, and the situation became tense. Don't rush to conclusions, I'll explain everything. My friend has no claims against your village, but he personally wants to kill Yugura, but he needs help with information, and preferably with something else. He's even ready to be a mercenary, for a price that's reasonable for his abilities. This is a very serious problem. Ao began to think hard, since the extra strength in the person of such a fighter would be useful for them, but no one in their right mind would trust these two, but eliminating these two, at least one, would definitely bring too many problems. What agreement did you come to? The executioner, although present at the conversation, understood little. Yugura no longer has the 7 swordsmen of the mist, which means that getting one of the legendary swords will be more difficult for you. Samahata, one of the most powerful swords of these, in my opinion, disappeared along with its owner, Kisame. Kubikuribocho disappeared along with Sabuza. The Kiba blades disappeared along with Raiga. Kabutawari, Shibuki, Nuwabari were lost in Konoha after a battle with a certain Might Dai. According to rumors, he turned out to be the strongest master of taijutsu, who destroyed as many as 4 sword owners, where they are no one knows. In part, the loss of so many swords also served to split the village. Hiramakari is with the rebels, which means they will not give it to us, and taking it away will immediately break all agreements. Then I'll manage. Yes, but you still shouldn't discount such legendary things, they can help you. By the way, I remembered about your crucible. No one has heard anything about its blade. Maybe they're lying to us, but maybe other villages took it. Even if I find the blade, I said it wouldn't be of much use without the handle, and I didn't see the handle when I woke up. I'll keep my nose to the wind. Well, in the meantime I've ordered armor for you. It will be a full set of samurai armor in your size, green. And here you go. The old man threw the warrior a piece of iron with a rag attached to it. Is this your what's his name? Tie it. We shinobi recognize each other through it. I still wear mine with the whirlpool symbol, as you can see, but you don't have a village, but this symbol of yours. I decided that this will be your symbol on your tie it from now on. Put it on your belt, since you don't like wearing it on your head, it will be in place of a badge. How do you like it? That'll do. When will the armor be ready? At least in a month. The rebels don't have any extra money, especially for strangers, but helping them for free would be unnecessary, although in essence, for you, they are helping us and should pay us. But they need us more, because the sooner this is over, the sooner their country will live normally again and recover. Ah, it's a pity that I only know combat seals. Your armor would do well to have fuinjutsu to hide your chakra. If I taught you not to emit chakra in a normal situation, then when you start fighting, all sensors, and even those who are not sensors, will detect you by your demonic aura. This is also a problem, you will scare off your targets if you emit like that. That's why I need you, to do reconnaissance. This time, the executioner smiled not with his battle grin, but even a little friendly. It took the rebels 2 months to reach the village walls, with the help of their new allies. The battle unfolded in front of the village walls. Yugura's shinobi were swept away, after which the rebels broke through, following their living battering ram. And now the head of Kiri himself finally appeared before them. You're really annoying me, but it seems that Doomguy didn't listen to any more of his ranting and tried to cut Yugura in half with his sword. His bodyguards, unlike their boss, were unable to evade, and this time the executioner did not have to hold back so as not to frighten his allies. They, on the orders of Terumi Mei, who remained with AO at headquarters, like Lee, took care of matters at their level, leaving the 2 monsters to solve their problems themselves. No one allowed the little Mizukage to chatter anymore, and he would have regretted that he had decided to talk at all, if his will had been completely in his power. To begin with, he summoned bubbles that were supposed to help him unhook his opponent, but the latter used a trick that he had been learning for a long time, namely, he sent his chakra into the blade, which cut through all the bubbles. Fortunately or not, he had no predisposition to any element, and he could not fully use techniques due to his different body structure, which did not have Kirakuki. Therefore, he was only able to use the most basic techniques, such as walking on water and vertical surfaces, as well as direct control of his unmodified energy. Although his blade was not reinforced with wind or lightning chakra, his red poisonous chakra could easily compete with them and block them. The next technique was much more serious. He created a mirror from which a copy of the executioner emerged. Only the copies were always weaker than the original, and this one decided to act like the original and clash in close combat, overpowering with brute force. The result was a missed blow, which dispelled it. In a situation where the enemy was advancing and was not going to stop, Yugura, who was weak in close combat and had trouble breaking the distance, used his trump card. His body was covered in demonic chakra, which caused him pain, but also gave him an advantage, because such chakra poisoned and burned enemies much more. It had always been like this, until this moment, because for his current opponent such pain was nothing, since he was scorched by hellfire. He used his cover as a pseudo-hand, but it was cut by a blade, and then his head. Surprise froze on the severed head of the Jinchuriki. After the victory of the resistance, the work for him had only just begun, for it was time to restore order and restore everything, but despite all these worries, Terumi was able to arrange a feast for her people and their mercenary, who still had to receive money for his help for a couple of years. And although she tried to convince the executioner to join her village, but his will remained unyielding, he had work to do, since he felt the trace of his armor. ================4 Armor =========================================================================================================================A large boat was sailing on a calm sea. At the helm was an old sea dog who was too greedy for a considerable reward offered to him for taking one dodgy guy to a useless country. The second guy would not have been so suspicious if he had not been in the company of the first one, and he spoke an incomprehensible language. "What can't you do for money?" The old smuggler had already had to do all sorts of work, but he didn't have to transport shinobi very often. It seemed that no one else had agreed to do this job, although the price was extremely attractive. But he was quick to agree, because then he made inquiries through his connections and found out who he was transporting. After that, he realized that he couldn't even refuse now, because he was afraid that he could lose his head for refusing. Achoo! Lee cleared his throat and wrapped himself more tightly in warm clothes. Damn it! First this humidity of the land of water, and now this frost. I'm too old for this climate. Why did it have to be a snowy island and not some tropical one? You're doing well, you're nothing more than. Achoo! Stop grumbling, as soon as we get closer, we'll walk on water. Our transporter doesn't want to be seen here, dropping us off. Are you sure someone will take us back from there? Sure. It's all about the price. Plus, they'll only see you after they agree to the deal, and then they won't dare refuse. It would be easier if you took it off at least sometimes, otherwise you scare people. You're already as scary as war, and in this armor you immediately catch the eye as a dangerous mercenary. Even ordinary people are starting to recognize you. That's why you usually walk around the city alone. Ahem. Yes, but still, it's a pity that you don't know henge, then you could transform without changing clothes and not attract attention. Then I wouldn't need you so much. That's true. But who would seal the weapons for you? You don't want to carry your arsenal on yourself, do you? And you wouldn't be able to take so much with you. It's good that you at least learned how to unseal, you just need to feed the chakra correctly, otherwise I would have to be nearby. To throw you something you need. Sometimes I wish you would seal your mouth, Slayer said mentally. Are you sure we even had to drag ourselves here? Maybe this is all just a rumor? It even sounds crazy. You've only heard legends about me, but it turns out I exist. These suits are very similar in functionality to my old one. Even if it's a coincidence, it wouldn't hurt me to get one for myself. As far as I understand, shinobi don't have anything like that, for some reason. Yes, mainly because there is not enough money for armor, and the iron itself, so only the wealthiest can afford armor. I also think that these are all empty rumors that a small country could advance in this. I would rather believe that one of the great countries could do this. Or maybe it is too expensive to give to simple shinobi, and for someone of S rank, such properties that armor gives are insignificant. Until another world war starts, or something like the Kiri Rebellion. It's a shame I wasn't in Konoha when the Kyubi attacked a few years ago. I won't go up against an entire great country with Kage-level shinobi. They're troublesome even one-on-one, and in large numbers without my previous weapons, I'll be at a disadvantage. Plus, causing a massacre just so the bijou they control can show itself. I'll be no better than the demons. My abilities are already described in Bingo's book, and tactics to counter them have probably been devised. In the mist, I used new tricks that I haven't shown before, but they're all already known. So I have time to prepare and look for ways to strengthen myself. You're right. It's just that I don't know how much longer I can hold out. And they can kill me. I can also become a hostage or something. They can believe that they can try to catch you like that. Have you already figured out how you'll continue on your way without me? I understand your language enough to be able to explain myself and convey my thoughts. But few people want to talk to you. I'll manage somehow, the executioner answered irritably. Yeah, you will. Cough cough. You will run around like a blind kitten across the continent, not knowing where to look for anything. Okay, I see that you don't like the conversation, so I'm going to rest. There was a lot of snow in the land of snow, but that didn't stop two foreigners. They started their journey from a port town and were heading to the castle of the country's new leader. A few dozen kilometers from their destination, 3 shinobi blocked their path. Who are you, and what are you doing in our country? The main one with purple hair began the interrogation. We came with peaceful intentions. My friend wanted to see the amazing shinobi suits of this country and maybe even buy one for himself. Our suits are not for sale. You have entered the territory of the ruler of our country, Kazuhindoto. Turn around and leave, or you will never leave again. Are you by any chance wearing those very same suits? Are you crazy, old man? You probably completely stopped following the news from other countries in this wilderness? Otherwise you would have recognized me and my companion. We don't care. We recently had the famous Sharingan copy ninja Kakashi here, and then he ran away with his tail between his legs. Kakashi. I heard. Cough. What was his rank there? I think? And he's not an expert in direct confrontation, more in tricks and subterfuge, reconnaissance and the like. A talented young man, yes. Only this one, Lee pointed a finger at the back of the guy who had stepped forward. He specializes in destroying entire armies and really doesn't like it when he's refused such small requests. And having come all this way here, only to turn back empty-handed? He won't just leave empty-handed. You asked for it. The trio's attack began with a synchronized technique that sent out a snow wave like an avalanche. The executioner was unable to dodge and was swallowed up by it, while Lee fled from the scene of the battle. The only kunoichi followed him, using the wings on her suit, and the remaining 2 went on snowboards, but their path was blocked by the warrior who had emerged from under the snow. Now they could sense his chakra when he stopped holding it back. The attacker with the largest muscle dimensions tried to ram him and also to strike. The executioner jumped back and himself struck a weak, not fatal blow, but the blows hit each other. Ah! The unlucky shinobi screamed from the pain in his arms, which were broken in several places. Until the second blow knocked him out. The leader of the trio began to make seals again, but his friend's body flew at him first and he was out of the game for a while. Doomguy unsealed a huge shuriken, as he called it, and threw it at the girl, who was not flying high enough. The projectile cut off her wing and she dived spinning, landing head first in the snow, with only her heels sticking out. Then the executioner jumped up to the rising leader and quickly knocked him out. Then he quickly went to the last opponent, who was already able to crawl out of the snow up to her waist. When the girl was pulled out by her leg and she was hanging on the executioner's outstretched arm, she could not immediately comprehend what had happened, but looking around she saw that her squad had been routed. Give up. Despite the gross error and the accent, she understood the warrior. Even if she hadn't understood him when he barked at her, she would have simply instinctively froze, despite the fact that she was a kunoichi. I give up. Good girl. Lee approached his partner after seeing that he had figured everything out. He did not speak to him in his language, since he could understand the meaning of the common language. Incredible throw, from such a distance, you cut off her wing so accurately. Accident. Oh. You're lucky. If he hit you, then, the girl was able to dodge, noticing the projectile only at the last moment. She turned pale, imagining what would have happened to her. Yeah. All three were tied up and covered with explosive devices so that they wouldn't think of escaping. Lee, as the creator of the seals, could detonate them, and therefore they were not dangerous to him and he would be able to control them even if he were left alone with them. Their suits were taken away immediately after the battle and hidden. Together, they went to the huge castle. There, troops were already gathering at the gates and on the walls. When they were there, some strange boxes were turned in their direction. The executioner began to associate them with salvo batteries. It looks like they are ready for our arrival. I won't go there as a negotiator. Lee didn't want to part with life ahead of time. Can I go there and pass on your demands? The girl volunteered. Since they were covered in explosives, they hadn't tried to cause any more trouble and had been polite to the extreme. Do we look so stupid? Let them send someone. Mr. Doto is unlikely to agree to this. Then you will have to come closer and shout to convey our words. When they approached the killing distance, kunai from the guns flew at them. Because of the rope, the prisoners could not run away, and so the girl and the leader hid behind the largest one, which is why they survived, and the executioner hid behind his printed shield made of some piece of iron that he adapted for it. They're standing here. After this order, the warrior, covering himself with his shield, ran straight to the castle, dodging more powerful projectiles. Then he walked along the wall to the level where it was possible to climb over the wall and began the assault, and the prisoners were left behind. Lee called them back while all the projectiles were flying at the executioner. 2 hours later, the castle gates were opened and the trio entered. An inspection of the interior revealed a bunch of victims who no longer tried to resist and generally accepted the new guest as a new master. Have you already grabbed everything here? The boss is hiding somewhere. Tell them to take us. He says that we need to go to Doto, and one guide will be enough for us, and there are already enough people here that we can ask. We understand, old man, we will take you there. The leader showed with all his appearance how much he hated the captors, but he could do nothing. No, you go with him, and she will stay with me. The passage into the castle took about 10 minutes, and here they were at the large doors. The executioner was ready to knock them down, but the prisoner tried to escape, because without the old man he could not be blown up. He managed to walk about 3 meters until a powerful blow to the ass hit him head-on into the ceiling. After which he lost consciousness. Having knocked down the door to the indicated hall, Doongai saw a large room where there was a man in black armor. He was saying something, but the stranger could understand it, something typical for a shinobi with a high opinion of himself about how he will now show his coolness and blah blah blah. Doto, seeing that the enemy did not intend to talk, but rather to speak in the language of force, used the technique of black ice, which he threw at the enemy, but he easily dodged and was already within striking distance of him. The smile of the head of the country flew off his self-confident face after he was hit by a fist. Why did he make body protection and not even wear a helmet? When Lee came to help disarm Doto, the executioner asked him a question. As a soldier in the past, he understood well that if he started wearing protection, it was better to wear it on the whole body. It saved him more than once, but often many ignored it, even shinobi. I don't know, it's not customary for us to wear a lot of armor, because many don't have money, and if you do, then only Haitayat protects your head. By the way. Cough cough. If you don't need the black armor, then I'll take it for myself. Let's see. The subsequent interrogation of the head of the country of snow and inspection of his laboratories led them to the place where the greatest secret of this country was kept, namely the strange weapons and armor that they once found and began to study. I assume this is yours? Lee looked at his companion. Yes. It looks like the weapon is almost intact, but it has run out of power due to time. The executioner looked at and collected all his weapons himself, because he always took care of them, and even though he was not a technician and could not repair them, he knew how to simply assemble and disassemble them, as well as do a superficial inspection. Seal it, I will take everything that belongs to me from here. Armor too? No, I'll examine it, it should be rechargeable through the argent energy of demons. Further examination of the armor ended with disappointing conclusions, for the first time I see. Such that it would be completely discharged. Damn bastard. This could have happened because of that strange green chakra. Are you talking about Rikudo? I don't care what you call it. What's important is that usually hellish energy causes mutations and transformation of flesh into the creation of sick fantasies about ancient gods, but this time everything was different. Instead, a tree grew here, and the background was almost neutral. Probably this green energy and your world somehow managed to neutralize the demonic energy and it transformed. That's why a new hell did not appear here. Do you think that Rakuto also managed to use this energy that suppresses demons to put you to sleep and that energy discharged your armor? Yes. The executioner still could not calm down and was angry. Doto said that they found out that your armor absorbed any chakra, they studied it for many years and learned to make their own. However, they never managed to launch it, it is simply bottomless. I think that their chakras are simply too small and contain too little of the demonic component. Just don't tell me that you want to find the Bijou and power it from him. Exactly. But I think that besides Bijou, there are other demons to be found. Is it true? Yes. Although the demonic origin was suppressed, but from what you told me, it turns out that strong negative emotions can awaken it and cause mutations. That clan, which, according to the stories, was cut out because of their madness, for example, or the Uchiha with their Sharingan, Lee said in his mind. He was glad that he hadn't told the executioner about them. He was afraid that the strong representatives of their clan with Manjikyu might seem like demons to him when using the power of their eyes and strong negative emotions. Their nickname alone was a reason for him to look at them askance and study this issue. And what, we're going to collect rumors about the so-called demons? Cough. Most of them are exaggerations. The same Zabuza is called a demon, but he was simply a murderer who surpassed many in cruelty. Among such rumors, you will have to look for something worthwhile and check it. After making the decision, the executioner donned his old armor and then left the land of snow with the old man. Beforehand, Lee took everything he could sell later, including the suits and all the records of the technology of their creation with the equipment. He had to get a large scroll so that everything could fit in there. Unfortunately, Doto was not prepared for this and did not make backup copies, and therefore could not quickly restore the technology of their creation, if he could do it at all now. ========================================================================================================================Commentary on 5. Return. Attention, there will be fillers, where there will be no plot, just events. I will mark. The journey and the collection of rumors about something demonic had been going on for more than a month. Actually, from the very beginning, one only had to look at the map to find the demon country there, but, firstly, it was quite far away, secondly, there were no rumors about the demons themselves from there, and making such a journey even without them would have been a big waste of time, and therefore it was left in reserve. Therefore, for a start, it was decided to walk along the center of the continent. Sometimes strange encounters happened. For example, in the land of Waterfall, when the executioner caught a rabbit by the ears. Strange. Cough. The speech was interrupted by a cough. The old man looked suspiciously at his prey, who obviously already understood that she was destined to end up in the soup and looked very pitiful. After he cleared his throat, he continued, seeing that the executioner's helmet was looking at him. Although he could not see his face, he understood that he was asking him to continue his speech. It's summer now, but the rabbit is white, as if it were winter. Now the executioner also paid attention to this. Usually he didn't pay attention to any nonsense, unless it was more important than destroying demons, or related to it. After all, he was not a shinobi who was trained to notice inconsistencies and details. Now he listened and began to look for something suspicious nearby, as did his partner. They both soon noticed the appearance of someone small and well hidden next to them, and another one who was larger and hid just as well. These two unknowns were watching them. What should we do with him? Eat him? These words made the hare even more despondent, as if he understood what the people were talking about. Lee decided to try to lure the stranger out with a provocation, although this was an unlikely event in advance. Stop. That's my bunny. Don't eat it. Please. A girl of about 5 years old with black hair ran out of the bushes and looked at the men tearfully. So it's not nobody's. Too bad, you got lucky with the big-eared one today. The old man gave a sign and the warrior handed the captive to the girl by the ears, not showing that he himself would like to keep the beast for himself and not as dinner. He could generally not eat or drink, but since he had the opportunity to enjoy rest, he used it to the fullest, and in hell, out of boredom, he even ate demon meat. "Thank you. And I have to go." The girl very carefully and fearfully took her pet in her arms, as if she was afraid that they would take him back from her or do something else bad. After her bunny returned, she quickly ran into the bushes, but they did not pursue her, although they wanted to question her in a gentle manner. Soon the second observer's feelings also disappeared, and so the path continued, but the boy, who was already growing too cute and like a girl, had a very unpleasant and difficult conversation with his teacher and boss. They walked along the deserted rocky plain of the country of stone. There was not a soul for many kilometers around. But suddenly a lonely figure in a cloak with red clouds appeared ahead of them. Both travelers immediately tensed up, because they still hadn't completely lost their vigilance. Which meant that the shinobi in front of them was not a weak one. An inspection showed that he wore a strange piercing, but when the executioner saw his eyes, his fists clenched, and Lee tensed up even more. After the executioner showed the signal, he immediately moved with his shunshin to the maximum possible distance. "You worked well together, you immediately acted according to the tactics as described. But I'm not interested in your friend. You can understand me anyway and, even if poorly, but answer?" The executioner remained silent, but it seemed that his interlocutor took this as consent. The executioner was interested to hear what kind of creature was behind him and what he needed, because they would not have looked for him so easily. And even though he felt something strange in those eyes, it was not demonic, but neutral. "You can call me Pain. I am a god who wants to create a new world, and I have chosen you as the one who can help me with this. You can continue to remain silent. I heard that you are silent, perhaps you only communicate normally with your friend. I suggest you join my organization Akatsuki. Otherwise, I will destroy you, because you have already greatly interfered with our plans." The executioner had heard enough and he attacked first, throwing down his throwing weapon and closing in. But a powerful field pushed him back and threw him away. "I won't kill you right away. People like you only understand strength, and so first I'll show you my strength." The executioner, although he heard the speech, did not stop because of these words and went on a second attack. This time the enemy for some reason dodged and did not repel all attacks. 5 seconds and the executioner almost caught up with the enemy in close combat, forcing him to dodge or repel the iron, but then some force threw him back again. But he was already prepared for this, and therefore throughout the entire fight he no longer lifted himself off the ground, so as not to be carried away, and constantly glued himself to the ground. The new attack did not lift him off the ground, but forced him to drag himself along it, digging into the ground with all 4 limbs. Thus he furrowed less than a third of the previous distance. Now 5 seconds were more than enough to manage to deprive the enemy of his arms with a blow, before the next wave. "Enough. It seems you are really too dangerous and uncontrollable, and therefore I will finish you off." Pain was no longer alone when the executioner looked at him. There were several more pierced ones with the same hair and eye color, wearing the same clothes. And their leader had already somehow grown new arms. Then several enemies went forward to block their leader. Strange pierced beasts with the same eyes were summoned. A huge chameleon appeared behind them, swallowed one of them and hid in invisibility. They could have approached there unnoticed. It seems that the main one's powers have a cooldown of about 5 seconds. "I'm not sure of victory now. His allies may also come. The powers of the others are unknown. Or should I check what they are capable of? They have invisible beasts that I won't be able to detect without equipment. They were able to track me and can attack again and suddenly, using the old man as a burden for me. I need to deal with them here." After a short calculation, the decision was made. In this brawl with summoned beasts and several shinobi, the executioner had a parity of forces. Of the opponents, 4 were problematic, the rest were trash. The warrior quickly took out the animals with his attacks, but they disappeared and were returned after a while. The dog was divided and was the most problematic. In the end it stopped at its 9 copies, which he could only temporarily disable before they regenerated themselves. he could not find the summoner himself. Next came the enemy, who attacked with missiles and lasers, and was also stronger than the others, had a cyborg body with the ability to mutate. In close combat, he was much weaker, but he was constantly covered. In general, all the opponents had an amazing ability to work as a team, as if they were all one living organism. The next problem was the very first enemy, who could not only push away, but as it turned out, also pull, which cut down on maneuverability because it was impossible to lift off the ground, and also at the wrong moment this could deprive you of maneuverability and expose you to attack. The last problematic enemy turned out to be a guy who could somehow restore the opponents he destroyed, but it was impossible to get to him, since he and the repulsive guy were protected first and foremost, even at the cost of their lives, by everyone else. Next up was a not-so-useful enemy that could drain his chakra from his chakra-using attacks. Since he didn't use chakra much other than his chakra sword, this enemy was almost useless, as even without chakra, Doomguy's attacks were bone-crushing. The most useless was the one who tried to grab him by the head, but constantly failed and lost body parts. However, altogether this gave the enemy enough strength to achieve parity, when Slayer could not finally kill the enemies and catch them, and they him. A battle of attrition began, which was a common thing for the warrior, but his opponent, even with his incredibly large reserves of chakra, was still not so resilient and could not continue the fight for so many days, much less do without sleep and rest. That's why all the opponents simply disappeared at one moment, and the executioner felt that this couldn't just happen and that something had to follow sooner or later. However, everything happened even too early, when something appeared in the sky that pulled him towards itself. The attempt to escape, clinging to the ground, failed when the ground also flew up with him. Only sitting at a distance of many kilometers, Lee witnessed the monstrous power of the enemy they met, which could suppress even a weak Biju. For according to legends, it was these eyes that Rakuto had, and it was this technique that created the moon. He watched this with horror through binoculars, silently praying to Kami that they would be merciful to his already certain friend. Haha, in the distance, Nagato was breathing heavily and trying to come to his senses after such a technique. Aren't you overdoing it? Blue-haired Conan asked the red-haired invalid, who was her old friend. No. It's justified. You didn't see what I saw. No one has ever managed to continue fighting pain for so long. He's already figured out almost all of my body's abilities. He shouldn't have been left alive. And now I guarantee he won't survive this. Now that he won't be a hindrance to us anymore, we can continue with the plan. The executioner opened his eyes and looked around. His consciousness jerked back to him. Lee was coughing next to him, and he himself was waist-deep in stones. They were everywhere, it was as if he were in a crater. I can't believe you're still alive. Uzumaki looked as if a heavy weight had been lifted from his soul. How long was I unconscious? Doomguy began to dig himself out and soon got out and stood on his feet, but seeing that his friend could not walk yet, he sat down next to him. It's been a month already. You know, I'm not young, and I don't know Doton. Another cough started, which hadn't stopped since their journey to the land of snow, but only became more frequent and stronger. A couple more shinobi teams came here, and I hid during that time. It seems that they didn't have a sensor that could smell you in this thick stone. After they left, I continued the excavations, although I thought that you were already. Thank you, the executioner finally expressed what was in his soul. Come on. How are you feeling? Your armor is almost undamaged. But only my pride suffered. And so it was as if a mountain had been dropped on me. Ha ha ha. Cough cough. If you're joking, then you're definitely okay. Will you tell me who it was and what they wanted? Why did they want to kill you so badly? Then follow the story for Lee. I need you to look for information about these Akatsuki as well. Maybe Akatsuki? I've never heard of it before. But I'll try. Do you want a rematch? Although who am I asking? Then it's better this way, can you handle it? The old man looked at his interlocutor with concern. If I get to my weapon, I definitely can. However, I should start gathering information now. Also, I should probably wear some kind of cape and not show up everywhere in armor, otherwise they will soon be able to find out that I'm alive. Here. I have just such a thing, I wore it in the north. the old man threw him a huge robe with a hood. Next. You said that you had acquaintances in Konoha. Will you be able to find out something through them? And other issues at the same time? The warrior remained silent about the fact that you can check your health in the hospital there. He and the old man both knew that non-shinobi doctors would most likely be useless, since the old man had already secretly visited such doctors in the cities along the way. But he did not go to shinobi doctors in other villages. The old man also understood this, but tried not to let it come to that, because problems could happen in Konoha. They would have certainly been allowed in, albeit with mistrust, but then problems could have arisen. And he did not want to leave the executioner alone for long. That is why they looked for rumors in other ways. Their path lay through several countries, but the only hitch was in the land of grass. When they were in a small village, a pair of shinobi arrived there, looking for someone. Has anyone seen the girl with her daughter? They're a missing teen with a hostage. We'll give a small reward for information about them. Description: the girl is about 25 years old and the girl is about 5. They walk together like mother and daughter, both have red hair and pupils, presumably they're running towards Konoha. At some point in the conversation, Lee's face changed and became very focused. When the shinobi left without any results, Lee stood up and left the pub. His companion followed. Lee's path led to the shinobi who had left. Old man, why are you following us? The Kusa shinobi led the pursuer into an alley to ask questions there. Name? Cough cough. Exactly. This woman, her last name isn't Uzumaki by any chance? That's right. Do you know anything about her? Absolutely nothing, but now you'll tell me everything about her. What for? Are you threatening us? If I blew on you, you'd fall over, the guys grinned. I won't lay a finger on you, but then my friend will talk to you. Then hands in green gloves fell on the guy's shoulders and they immediately tried to break free, but in vain. They were immediately shaken to stop twitching. They looked at their enemy and stared straight at the helmet that was under the hood. One of them turned much paler than the other. You've probably heard of him. He was listed in the bingo book as the Blood Reaper, and now, if my memory serves me right, he's called the Executioner. He's known for, after listing the warrior's deeds, the shinobi were both pale and no longer wanted to provoke a conflict. What do you care about that girl, old man? One of the interrogated decided to do something to avoid problems. Well, that's it, the old man put on a high tie, which he sometimes took off to hide the fact that he was a shinobi. The guys no longer had any questions about the connection between the old man and the girl. She swore allegiance to Kusa after her village was destroyed, and she wanted it that way. And then she ran away. She's a missing teen and must be punished. Do you want to defend a traitor? I don't care about that, cough. I'm an Uzumaki, and since there are so few of us left, I'll help my relative, even if I'm seeing her for the first time. And I don't care what or who she promised, I'll talk to her first, even if she's a maniac. Your words aren't worth bird droppings. I recommend you shut up and start answering my questions, otherwise he'll start breaking your bones, then tearing off your fingers and then coming to your village and it won't exist anymore, just like mine. And you can protect, not only yourselves, but your village as well. We'll just take the woman and child and leave. Of course. It was partly a bluff, because Lee was not sure that the executioner would do such a thing for him. Although they did conduct such interrogations, but then the question was about what the warrior needed. Although Slayer was clearly ready to just be a scarecrow and beat up the guys a little for his friend. And so began the chase for the Nukaninka, which ended with the two old men arriving just at the denouement, when the grass shinobi had already tied up the girl and were beating her in front of her daughter. The executioner immediately, as had already been agreed upon in his agreement with Lee, intervened and knocked out the enemy shinobi. Stop. Or I'll slit her throat. The Chunin who was in charge put a kunai to the woman's throat, and his subordinate did the same to the child. And he'll kill the girl. We've already been warned about you, so we know you want them alive, then if you want them. Fuck. The executioner began to advance menacingly, already taking out his sword, which was filled with his chakra. Wait a little, Lee spoke soothingly and conciliatorily, before everyone did something stupid. He himself asked to do this, in case he or they were taken hostage, so that they could not be pressured. My dear friend speaks poorly, but he meant that he does not care whether you kill them or not, they are important to me. And if you kill them, then he will no longer hold back and begin the massacre. We can still disperse without killing. Are their lives worth as much as yours and your people? You heard this from your own shinobi, and all, because we spared them. Think about it, what will you achieve by resisting the inevitable? True, but you will make the bloodless transfer of the hostage the end for your village, which will not be able to fight back. The Chunin himself thought hard, he didn't want to fail, losing a valuable asset, especially with a girl, but his trick was risky and didn't work. So he gave the order to his subordinate with the girl to hold her hostage until they all escaped, and then catch up with them. He was brave enough to do it and smart enough not to do something stupid by killing the hostage. For the executioner and his companion, it was time to meet the female hysterics. Even though the woman was a kunoichi named Suzuki, even they had moments when their psyche couldn't take it anymore. The girl and her mother were crying together, and only old Lee was panting to calm them down, and Slayer stood at a distance, but nevertheless listened with half an ear to their story. How she and her husband were looking for a new home and protection from the killers. At first they wanted to go to Konoha, but they were on a mission and couldn't get there, and they were saved by the shinobi of Kusa. Then they had to agree to the conditions of this village and everything was not so bad, but then her husband died, and she was left alone with her daughter Karen. Then it became known that her chakra and blood were healing and they began to use it. And they brought her to exhaustion. Her daughter inherited the same feature and therefore the same, if not worse, fate awaited her. Then she decided to escape. And although the escape was successful, but only by a miracle they were saved, otherwise she would certainly not have been released from captivity. It's all over, we'll take care of it. I'll take care of you. I have money and I'm just heading to Konoha, you and your daughter will be able to live normally there. After that, they all wanted to leave the country as soon as possible. But Suzuki, while talking about the grass village and the country, mentioned a bloody prison, where, according to rumors, there were some experiments and rumors about a demon. Are you going there? Oldley would have scolded the girl if she hadn't been so exhausted. He now needed his partner to protect the girls, as he could get out of breath even from running fast. After telling him about her ability, she was afraid that they would also use her ability for themselves. And after coughing, she immediately offered him to bite her for treatment, although it was obvious that she did not want it and was generally terrified and did it only out of fear that they would be abandoned. Yes, you can go yourself, or you can wait until I check everything. Take us to the border of the Land of Fire, they definitely won't follow us any further. We'll go to Konoha slowly, and then we'll meet there, or on the way. Cough. I'll just go and collect some rumors, if I have time. And so it was done, and so the executioner went alone on this visit. In prison, he had to use force again and a kind but terribly threatening word to be taken seriously. And although he was now an enemy of this country, the price for his head was already high enough to rise further, for Kusa could not pay as much as great countries like Lightning. In prison, he found a certain box, from which he clearly felt a demonic stench. And although the warden assured that it was indestructible and other nonsense, Doomguy knew very well that such a thing does not happen. It is either a small caliber, or an unsuitable cartridge, and sometimes both together. That's why he started trying to break it. The first failed because the box absorbed chakra from his blade, and without it, it was useless to hit, it would only break the swords. Then his fists came into play. And although the box seemed not to feel the damage for the first hours, it gradually began to give in and eventually some tentacle flew out of it, which tried to pull the attacker inside, but to no avail. As a result, the wall was broken through which a strange creature emerged, which seemed to be weakened and did not enter into full force. The fight did not last long and all the crap was beaten out of the creature. And its chakra was absorbed and filled the armor, activating its systems. Greetings, you have been away for a long time, but the tower has retained enough power to operate while in sleep mode. All systems are now coming online and testing is beginning. The probable time for the end of debugging is 7 days. After an hour of trying to call Vega or Hayden, Vega finally got in touch. I'm glad you're back with us. There's no need to tell us about your adventures, we'll have time, now I also need to get busy with the tower's work. Hayden also got in touch. The executioner was glad that his efforts had paid off. However, he was not going to head to the tower right away. First he needed to check on Lee. After that, he would need to work on restoring the armory and the tower, because Vega and Hayden's software checks alone would not fix everything. Sometimes he would have to work with his hands. Then he planned to re-equip the suit, because it turned out that not only the kicks can become invisible, but also the opponents do not always scream and give themselves away before the attack. Therefore, it will be necessary to solve this problem, for example, by using infrared and other visors, and there are also a number of things that can be improved, for example, trying to create cartridges from his chakra to eliminate the depletion of ammunition, and not only from demons. He couldn't get to Konoha before Uzumaki, so he had to look for them, but they found him faster, because people started gossiping about him as soon as he took off his armor cape. "Good to see you, Doom." Lee looked better. "I'm taking medicine, I feel better, but even Tsunade can't cure me." The old man was glad to see his friend. His new family was also nearby and was not afraid of the warrior. "I had to try hard to get them settled here and get you here. In return, I gave back what I took from Doto, and Karen will have to become a kunoichi." Suzuki became a mednin. With her chakra it was not difficult to learn. Even though she doesn't know much theory yet, her chakra works wonders. Only she still hides the scars on her hands from bites, and she doesn't even want to try to remove them yet. "And what about you? Good luck." "Great, great. I haven't found the information I need yet, but give me some time and—" "Little demon." These words spoken nearby made Slayer immediately stand up and turn towards the speaker. He even scared those who saw it. The one who said it was a woman who, like most, looked askance at the boy with yellow hair and mustache stripes on his cheeks. The scan did not reveal any demonic energies, Vega concluded. In the heads of the executioner and Lee, a logical chain of what could be happening here was being built. Jinchuriki? The thought flashed through both of their heads at the same time. The executioner's fists clenched and he went to the boy of about 5 years old. Lee quickly recalled what he had heard about this boy. Yes, there were some rumors about a hooligan boy who was called a little demon, but he did not want trouble and did not take an interest in this, so as not to set the village where he would live with his relatives against him. "Huh? Eh?" The boy, who looked sad and almost crying from resentment, noticed that a frightening figure was looming over him. He was overcome with fear and began to back away. "Boy, don't be afraid, he's an acquaintance of mine. He's just interested in you. For his own reasons. Don't pay any attention to him." The old man sat down on his knees in front of the boy, cutting him off from his friend's gaze and not allowing the boy to be afraid of him. He didn't want him to be afraid and smiled as sincerely as he could. "What's your name? Where are your parents?" "Me? My name is Uzumaki Naruto." The boy said this with pride, as if he was proving his coolness. "And I'm an orphan." These words made the boy very upset. But Lee wanted to curse both himself and the guy twice, because now he was sure that the guy in front of him was a Jinchuriki. And the executioner would think so too, after his story about who was the Jinchuriki of the nine-tailed fox, and Lee himself could not step aside now even if he wanted to, because he did not want to abandon his relative, even if the Uzumaki blood seemed weak in him, but such a surname would not be given to a simple orphan. "Wow. You're Uzumaki?" "Me too. My name is Lee Uzumaki, and I seem to be related to you." "Is it true?" "Of course. And over there, do you see that girl? And her little daughter? Those with red hair? Yes, they are also Uzumaki. In general, our clan is mostly distinguished by red hair, and it seems that one of your parents was a blonde with strong genes. Will you take me with you?" "Well, here I have to talk to your guardians and sort out other things. Don't be upset, even if they don't let me adopt you, I definitely won't abandon you. If you, Lee-san, are not allowed to take him under your guardianship, then I will also try." Subaru was also glad to find a relative. Both she and the old man were looking for others, but nothing had been heard before. Meanwhile, Doomslayer was thinking about what to do. He just wanted to take the guy and crush his head. The shinobi who seemed to be flocking here wouldn't stop him, and then he would open a portal. If even an ANBU meeting had started because of the guy, then the guy was even more than a simple child. On the other hand, he didn't want to kill children, and also betray his friend. The guy periodically looked back at him, as if by accident, but with obvious apprehension, just like Suzuki. And although these people were called red-haired devils, they were just simple people. Make sure he grows up to be a normal guy. If he becomes a real demon, I'll come and kill him. I'll come back for information in a couple of months. The executioner turned his back to the family, and a portal opened in front of him, where he entered in front of the surprised people and shinobi. Thank you, Lee thanked the warrior who had already disappeared and breathed a sigh of relief. Grandpa Lee, what did your friend say? Karen and Naruto turned to the old man almost simultaneously. I wished you good luck and to grow up as a strong shinobi. Haha. Cough. Lee-san, I think Mr. Hokage would like to speak with you. Two shinobi in ANBU uniforms appeared near the old man, a silver-haired one and a black-haired one with a Sharingan. ==========================================================================================================================Several months of work passed rather quickly for the executioner. He was glad to return to his citadel, where his computer and other entertainment awaited him. He especially missed good music, because everything that was in that world was some kind of tedium. He once tried to sing to Lee what he liked to listen to. And Lee said, "So this is what hellish music is like, and this is what sounds in hell." After these words, the warrior did not specify that it was his favorite metal. A new portal was opened, and after leaving it, the executioner went to Konoha. He did not open a portal to it right away this time. This time, he was not in a hurry. They were already waiting for him at the gate. My name is Hitaki Kakashi. Slayer-san, I have been assigned to take you to Lee-san. A silver-haired boy with an eye patch appeared at the gate. The executioner nodded silently, allowing the person leading him to lead him away. They arrived at the hospital. Inside, in one of the rooms, they found Lee. Hello. Sorry, I was going through some procedures here. Allow me to introduce this legendary shinobi who was talking to me just now, Jiraiya. The legendary Toad Sage. Nice to see you, you've already become a legend too. A man, no longer young but not yet old, also with white hair, greeted Doomguy cheerfully. He nodded again. Everything is fine with me and my family, if you're interested. If not, then let's get down to business. Jiraiya is here to provide the information he managed to find. Lee cleared his throat and gave the floor to the one named. After Lee came to Konoha and after you left it, the Hokage decided to talk to him and find out what you were doing here. He was the one who gave the order to help you gather information. They already got me involved. Jiraiya became more serious and no longer smiled. It so happened that I had already met the range shinobi who apparently attacked you. It was possible that he was my student, whom I thought was dead. Although he was wearing a missing mean protector back then, he certainly wasn't the type to abandon his village and country. I think that the search should start from there. Moreover, the Akatsuki organization was once organized on its territory, but was later destroyed. At that time, it was engaged in mercenary activities, but had its own rules and restrictions. Now it seems that it consists of S-rank missing mean and does almost everything without restrictions. Sanin fell silent, catching his breath and letting what was said sink in. I'll get ready and go with you. Lee tried to get out of bed. No, Slayer said in his own language. What? I'll go alone. The executioner didn't voice what everyone in the room probably understood. Lee didn't have much time left and his friend wanted him to be able to spend his last months with his family. Doom also understood that after that prank, they probably didn't want to leave him in Konoha for long and therefore wanted to quickly lead him to those who would be interesting to him. No one wanted to lose people in an unnecessary battle, and therefore it was easier to give him another goal than to make sure he didn't lose his temper with the Jinchuriki or anyone else. Okay. Doom said that it would be better for me to stay. Will you take me with you? It is important for me to learn everything about my student. Even if I have to witness his death, Jiraiya asked the question for a reason, because according to the story, his student had grown greatly in strength, and therefore it would not be superfluous to have the support of such a shinobi, although it would be more difficult to act unnoticed with him. Doomguy looked at the Sanin, considering his options, and then nodded. Okay, I was waiting for you, so we can leave right away." The entire journey was almost in complete silence. Although the Sannin tried to brighten the journey, his companion was cold and listened to music, which Jiraiya did not appreciate, although he did not express his opinion on the matter. Once they crossed the border of the Rain Country, they became doubly cautious, but even so, they were discovered first. "Wow, what a miracle! And the boss told me that he destroyed you, and here you are alive." A sudden voice caught the couple off guard. They focused on the source of the voice and saw a man in an orange spiral mask with one eye, who was fooling around. After the executioner threw a shuriken at the enemy, out of habit, he was unable to dodge, but still remained intact, which made the couple wonder what it was. The scanners don't pick up illusions. This isn't a hologram either. There's something else going on here. Hayden gave his assessment. "AIA. You almost killed me." Then the guy started to act the fool again, even when a projectile flew at him, which again passed through him and hit the tree behind him. "Stop attacking me, I want to." This time the mask wearer was interrupted by the explosion of a sticky mine. Only now he took damage and flew forward, and the executioner rushed towards him and struck. And again he became intangible. "So that's how it is. You really are too dangerous. You managed to catch me and hurt me." The one-eyed man quickly got up, but it was clear that he was wounded, although not seriously. Now he was completely serious. "This time we will definitely make sure that you finally die." After the threat, Toby moved through his Kamui. "So what now? They're clearly setting a trap for us." Jiraiya didn't like what he saw at all, especially because at the end he saw the Sharingan on the enemy. He couldn't let himself be killed or captured under any circumstances until he passed this information to Konoha. Relations with the Uchiha clan were strained there. This information could solve everything, because it looked like this person could be the one behind the fox's attack, or maybe it was Madara himself. The executioner, although he had concerns, but if he was afraid, he would definitely be stuck here forever. And the enemy, if he can be wounded, can be killed. Apparently, he cannot dodge an attack that he does not see and does not expect. He went to the Rain Village, and Jiraiya, after thinking, fell behind a little and decided to just watch. Subsequent observations made the old shinobi realize that this was the right decision. Several S-rank shinobi, including his old student, attacked the executioner together, but he cut through them like a knife through butter. The attack happened before they reached the settlement. Apparently Akatsuki did not want the village to suffer. Pain appeared in the company of several new shinobi. However, the first blow did not come from the defenders. In an instant, the warrior took out some kind of thing and the head of one of the pierced immediately flew into pieces. It was the one who could resurrect other bodies, although G was not sure of it. Then the executioner created a real hurricane from a bunch of guns, which he changed one after another very quickly. The opponents had no choice but to hide or somehow defend themselves, otherwise they died. This was not limited to the first victim. Precisely a victim, because this did not look like a fight, as if in those days, when his student Minato destroyed entire armies, now the executioner also destroyed an army that would be enough to destroy even a great country. Then all of Pain's bodies were disabled one after another. Even the chameleon did not save anyone, because the new visor saw him. Kisame created water clones and caused a flood. The executioner managed to jump on the wave with the new systems of the jumpsuit, after Pain's bodies were destroyed and he did not fear repulsion. The swordsman himself decided to attack from under the water, but the sharks were blown up and so it was again and again. His most powerful attack, absorbing chakra, was broken by a shot from the BFG, and they destroyed each other. Then he had no choice but to attack hand-to-hand, where his clones were defeated due to the limitation of power. Samahata's blow was met with a chainsaw, which managed to almost cut it. Fearing to lose it, the swordsman retreated and this was his fatal mistake. The executioner began to fire and if the swordsman was able to take the first volleys on his sword, then he did not have time to completely close himself. They shot him in the legs, shot off the fingers and hand of the hand holding the sword, and then his head. If he could somehow grow and regenerate the rest with the help of the sword, then he could not do the same with his head. Meanwhile, almost unnoticed, the executioner finished off Hayden. although he survived shots to the body even from a machine gun. His head could not withstand point-blank shots. He could not grow his head back either. The attack from underground from Orochimaru and Kakuzu was met with a flamethrower and new volleys. Kakuzu protected himself from the pellets with his hard skin, as well as from the fire, but the snake was blown to pieces and, although alive, did not want to continue. He managed to get away before Jiraiya arrived. Kakuzu was less fortunate, because he was closely engaged. His strong skin and strength were not enough to withstand a punch and a volley of ballista. Sasori was the last one, and his attack with iron sand failed. It was worth removing the protective wall for the next attack, although even if he managed to spray the sand and hit it, he would not be able to jam the suit, and his poison would not be able to penetrate the filters. In the end, after damaging his body, he decided that he was no longer attracted to the organization, and as soon as the fight was over. Having broken into the city, the executioner received information that Vega had detected a strange signal that was somehow connected to those pierced ones, and was preparing to track it. Several shinobi decided to stop him, one even had some kind of glowing sword, which was the legacy of the second. After his head splattered the contents from the blow, there were no more brave men, because they had already been given the order not to engage in battle. They only wanted to be heroes, and show their strength. Sannin had no choice but to quickly take everything that could be of value, including Samahata, the sword of the first and Heiden's scythe, and then go catch up with the executioner. His clone stayed to collect the bodies and everything else that could be useful, including the heads of those definitely killed or their bodies, in order to later receive a reward and give it to the executioner, or if he refused to keep it for himself or give it to whomever he told. Orochimaru and Sasori had already disappeared by that time, but the rest could be of interest, including the conditionally immortal Haiden. The search for the signal soon led Slayer to the building from which the signal was coming, but it suddenly stopped. "What are we doing here?" Jiraiya looked at his stopped ally. "Signal Shoal Otsuyuta. I'll help you search." He folded the seals and summoned the toads. But the briefing was not destined to end, because a man in red armor, with a Rinnegan and black hair, like the Uchiha clan representatives had, came out of the building. Next to him stood the already familiar guy in the spiral mask. "You are definitely not Nagato. I recognized you, your statue in the Valley of the End conveyed your image well." Jiraiya took the floor, before another scuffle began. "This boy was needed for my plan, and I gave him my eyes to guide him to do my will. It was I who created his destiny, and guided him. Now he let me down, and could not cope with the problem in the form of this executioner. So according to my backup plan, he used his eyes to bring me back to life, after which I returned my eyes and took his life and that blue-haired girl." This news made Jiraiya boil with anger and malice, but he was too experienced to be provoked, and until he checked everything he would not be sure that his enemy was telling him the truth, and therefore he would do this, and the executioner clearly already wanted to finish everything. "They are yours." After these words, Madara immediately activated Susanoo, which immediately took the shots. "And that's all?" Doomguy also saw that the result was 0 so far and hit the BFG. This volley was able to throw Madara back and break through the upper layers of defense. True, Uchiha only began to smile. Now this is where it gets interesting. Before the next volleys were fired at him, he had already performed a full-fledged Susanoo with legs. He didn't care about the casualties of the population. The people had been hiding in shelters for a long time, but such shelter would not have helped them if the battle had raged in full swing. Suddenly, the executioner was simply blown away by a powerful blow, so powerful that he pierced the building. What was that? Another invisible man? Why didn't the system detect him? Apparently this is a different method of camouflage. It cannot be detected in the involved spectra. Hayden quickly analyzed the situation and looked for a way to help. "I've done an analysis, another unknown radiation was detected before the impact. I'm making adjustments. I can't display it fully on the screen, I can only model a spot that will illuminate the source." The conversation was interrupted by the fact that the building simply began to collapse after Susanoo cut it off at the base. "You said that last time he was buried like that and he couldn't get out on his own, so since he can't get out of there anymore, then..." The giant swords began to hit the remains of the building, trying to destroy the executioner. Zetsu, check if he's really dead. There is. A couple of minutes later, a black and white man appeared from the ground. He's not there. What? Madara was not pleased with the news. According to rumors, he could have somehow moved from Konoha. Then let's deal with that white-headed rat for now. It looks like he went after Nagato and Konan's body. Zetsu, who was outside Susanoo, lost his head. His white part could no longer be dangerous, and the black part began to soak into the ground. You can't entrust anything to anyone. There was no new shot because Obito's portal opened behind the warrior. The executioner failed to hit him again and threw a grenade at him, but it disappeared in the portal, which he immediately closed. The flamethrower also had no effect. But suddenly the mask wearer's body was torn to pieces, tearing off the lower part of his body and damaging the upper one. This time, he did not have time to become intangible in time due to the pain and damage. His foot crushed his head. The next second, a giant sword attack landed where he had landed, destroying a bunch more houses with a shock wave. The subsequent attacks also missed their target. The executioner spent ammunition and looked for weak spots, but so far everything was in vain. His sensors detected the invisibles and he started shooting at them, but even the BFG didn't hit them. Only when they got close enough for hand-to-hand combat did the crucible disperse them. After that, the Uchiha's face was even more sour because such a bug was causing so much trouble. Attempts to grow a poisonous forest and drop a meteor also ended in failure. The victims were only the villagers. As a result, the executioner had to get closer to the giant, right under his feet, dodging vegetation and swords, as well as legs, but as a result, having spent 2 charges of BFG, he was able to drop the warrior. He tried to hold on with his hands, but it was all in vain. Madara couldn't believe it, but he was almost killed again by another shot of the green projectile. He didn't want to play anymore. His body was damaged by the plasma that his Rinnegan couldn't absorb, because it was real. He didn't have time to put up his defenses again before his head and priceless eyes were torn to shreds. When the battle ended, Jiraiya appeared, who nevertheless investigated the Akatsuki base and found the bodies of the students. I found something, you better take a look too. After the warriors nod, they headed to the secret hideout. It's somewhat reminiscent of that monster you defeated when you first came to this world, but it's probably connected to it somehow. Hayden voiced Doomguy's thoughts as well. I'm not sure what it is yet, any ideas? Destroy. The executioner activated the forge and walked forward, as something bit into him and tried to immobilize him along with Jiraiya. You ruined all the plans. You will pay for this. You will not dare touch the statue in which. The furnace cut off the black Zetsu and he tried to hide underground again, letting go of the Sannin, but he did not have time. Each blow of the sword burned him, tearing apart his very essence along with his flesh and scorched. Soon he was completely destroyed. When the Slayer slammed the blade into the statue, he decided to take it from this world. In the shinobi world, he decided to leave behind equipment that would let him know if a Bijou or other demonic beast broke out again. However, without Zetsu, the wars began to die down. And while there would be more wars in the future, the main culprit had already been destroyed. Even though old Lee wasn't with Naruto for long, the boy was happy in his new family. And after losing his grandfather, he had his adoptive mother and sister to support him and look after him on his way to his dream of becoming a great shinobi and being recognized by everyone. And even though the shinobi world is cruel, without those who push it to war, it has a chance for a long and strong peace. Preface: please read before reading further. An alternative version of the development of events, which is done to please the commentators, because I do not claim to have a complete and final interpretation and even often make a couple of endings myself. If you want to read not only the best possible scenario for the person thinking about it, then it is better to read this at the end for familiarization. The preface is finished. A pair of eyes and 2 more triplets stared at the creature in green armor that came out of the portal. Mom, who is this? This is. The woman was cut off from finishing her sentence by a shot that hit her right in the third eye. Headshot. The executioner commented to himself, quickly changing his position and taking out a ballista after his rifle, after which he shot at the guy with 2 eyes. He was clearly moving well, but his delay from surprise at the sight of the headless mother was too long. The second shot killed another enemy, and now the third was in sight, as the soldier felt a powerful surge of energy that simply blew him and the entire village away in an instant. When everything calmed down, Doomguy realized that he was buried alive under a pile of earth and other debris that lay on top. But his strength was enough to start getting out, and after a couple of minutes he crawled out from under the rubble and looked around, analyzing the situation. The effect resembles the consequences of using a nuclear weapon, but I don't detect radiation. The remnants of Argent energy indicate that it was her. Vega commented on the view of the wasteland, on the outskirts of which the executioner found himself. I'm detecting activity near the tree. It looks like the third one is heading towards it and something. GRA. In the distance, where Doomslayer was looking, the tree screamed and began to transform. Hundreds and thousands of figures separated from it, running towards him, and he only smiled under his helmet and turned up the music. In this fight with the little things, everything was too easy, as if you were beating imps, but the tree itself turned out to be an extremely large and agile opponent.